I make $100,000 per year doing absolutely nothing, and most people can do the exact same thing. I'm going to explain to you exactly how I do that and how you can get started as well. And when I mean absolutely nothing, I mean to make this specific $100,000 every single year in my life, I do nothing. It's completely 100% passive income. And no, it's not real estate or anything like that. So let's get into it. Now, a lot of this is going to start back at a 9 to 5 job, and you might have already seen online people talking about how if you want to become rich, you're going to have to get out of your 9 to 5 job, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, in most cases, you need a 9 to 5 job to get started to become rich if that's what you want to do. Or in my case, I specifically wanted to build a passive income that was that paid for my bills every single year. Now I'm past that point because I get more than what my bills cost, but that was the goal. So the first step to actually making passive income is you want to sit down and you want to figure out what is your bare minimum that you need per year to cover your expenses. Now those expenses are basic expenses that you have to pay, like food, power, water, internet, because that's the bare minimum that you need to actually keep surviving. And if you have any kind of like issues, your bills are covered. So that's the first thing you need to figure out. Now, what I want to do right now is put up some images on the screen right now of the income that I get every single year. So this is the last year. I think it's around about $104,000 per year from this specific income stream. So let's get started. The first thing is age is a big factor here. The younger you are and the faster you start this, the more beneficial it's going to be for you. Okay. So you want to be starting this in your 20s. You can start this in your 30s and 40s, but you're going to have to start, you're going to get your passive income much later. So let me explain. The first step is you need to have some sort of income stream right now, active income stream. That can be a job, a business that you have, or something that creates surplus cash for you where you can put cash into an investment. So this is why you want to have a 9 to 5 job, because any cash that you have left over, you're going to want to invest to build up this income stream. So what am I talking about right now? What I'm talking about is investing into dividend paying companies that pay out dividends every single year, usually twice or 4 times per year to you. Now, the thing is, there is a lower risk way to do this and a higher risk way to do this. I do the higher risk where I pick specific companies, and every couple of times a year I go in and I check them and I swap them out if I'm not happy with the performance. Or you can invest in something called like an index fund or an exchange traded fund, where a company or something or a person will manage that fund, and there might be 10, 20, 30 companies in there. And when you invest, that money is spread out throughout those companies. So there's things like the Vanguard Dividend Fund, which is a good one. But what you want to do is any spare cash you want to have, and you need to do this the earliest possible. I started doing this at about 18 years old. You need to put it into one of these funds. And then what's going to happen is you want to have it on what's called a drip. So when you get paid your dividends, they get put back into the company and you purchase more shares. So for the first 10 to 20 years, you're not actually going to be using those dividends. You're going to be building those up over time. Now, this, of course, depends on how much money you need per year to live off, or per year that you want from this. So let's say you want to only make $10,000 per year. It wouldn't take very long, depending on how much money you put in. But me specifically, it took about 15 to 18 years for me to stop all of my drips, and I now live off that income 100%. Now, do I still work and stuff? I still have like side hustles that I do and I play around with, but I mainly 100% live off that investment, 100%, $100,000 per year. And any other money that I earn, I just invest in other stuff like crypto and things. But the key here, and the most important part of this, is you need to start as young as possible. And for the first couple of years, it's not going to look like much, and you're probably going to think, why am I doing this? It's not worth it. But what happens is if you leave your money in the bank, that loses value every single year. It could lose 2 to 3, 4, 5%, depending on the inflation rates. But it loses value. So you want your money to be growing. And if you put your money to something like a Vanguard dividend fund, now I'm not giving out any financial advice. I'm not for you to specifically choose that fund. But if you can get your money into something that can pay you 5% per year and you build that up over time, you can get paid these dividends in return. Now, why did I do that instead of going into real estate? The biggest problem I had with real estate is I needed like $1 million minimum up front to invest into a property. I would have to borrow money from the bank, and it would take me way longer to actually see a good return for my investment. However, I can go and put $1,000 into a fund, 2,000. I can do 500 a week if I want. You can't do that with property. You can't. You have to actually go to the bank, get a loan, and all that stuff. Now, if you go on YouTube and you look around, you'll see tons of other people doing this, and most of the people that I've watched are very successful. The ones that aren't successful, they've picked companies and they've picked bad companies. So this is why I would recommend you put it into like a fund of some sort. You can research what type of fund to put your money into, but just any type of good dividend fund that's paying probably like a 5% or more dividend yield per year. So I get around about 6% dividend yield, but I think but you want to try and aim for around about a 5 minimum. That's a really, really good starting point. I also want to say that this can be done by anybody. It doesn't really matter what stage of life you're at. Just the older you get, the more you're going to have to put in, and the longer you're going to have to wait for that drip or those dividends to get reinvested, and then increase the size of your holdings in those specific companies or funds. But I 100% live off those dividends. It's crazy to me, actually, to think about it. And you've got to, and I think a lot of people realize this now, you've got to actually think about your long-term life goals. So when you're young, all you do is, you might party, go out, have a good time, which is fun. Spend money on your hobbies and all that sort of stuff. But when you get older, your life doesn't get boring, but it does get a little bit slower, and you're not as active, and you're not really doing as much, and you get to the point where you're like, I want to stop working. But you can't stop working if you don't have any type of investments coming in, paying for your bills.